Hi, it's Ileana here with Awakening Cosmic Reality Show, and we have Penny Bradley with us today. Hi, Penny.
Hi, Ileana.
How are you doing today, Penny?
Well, I'm recovering from a broken toe. I fell on the stairs here and did a number on myself. The doctor called it, boy, howdy, is that broke. So, yeah. Other than that, I'm fine.
That's good to know. That's good. I hope it heals soon.
Thank you. It's been a week.
So you have a boot now on, right?
Oh, yes. I have one of those little black ankle boots and it's solid and I have crutches that scare my cats. Um, yeah, that's always fun when you walk into the room and the cat goes berserk.
And it and it's not one of those boots to hide a ankle monitor to track where you are, like those government types and celebrities are wearing, under
Let's
house
see it.
arrest.
Let's see if I can raise this high enough for you to see it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh no, it's one of those better looking boots,
Yeah,
actually.
it
Stylish.
almost it almost looks like a shoe.
Yeah. Well, it's I mean, the bigger boots, the ones that some of the celebs and the government officials are wearing are bigger. So, makes you
Mhm.
wonder what kind of ankle monitors they're hiding, and the boots switch legs from week to week.
Yeah, that kind of gives it away that it's not an injury
Yeah.
when they switch legs.
House arrest for being naughty and bad. The elites.
Well, at least they're getting something, even if it's just an annoying ankle bracelet.
Yeah, ankle monitor to track them. It has a GPS tracker in it.
I'm so tired of there's one set of laws for us and another set of laws for them.
Exactly.
And yeah, that's not cool.
No, it's
It
not.
should be it should be the same rules for all of us.
Exactly, for sure. I agree. And we shouldn't, if they're wearing ankle monitors with GPS tracking, they're actually hiding the fact, the boot is hiding the fact that they are being tracked and monitored, and that they're under some kind of house arrest for this or that.
Mm.
So it's typical to hide it so nobody knows what's going on with them.
Do you have a cat?
Yeah, I have a cat. Yeah.
I just heard it in the background.
Oh.
Um, it's been in the 90s here, so I Fahrenheit.
Mm.
So I do have a swamp cooler on directly overhead. So if it's making racket,
No, it's not. It's fine. Yeah, it's been unusually hot. And speaking of hot, global warming is a real thing in geoengineering.
yeah, it is. Um, I keep getting told, well, that you're just listening to government sources. Well, actually, no, I have a whole range of people I listen to. And the Antarctic ice shelf keeps cracking and sending chunks off. Now, if the chunks are small enough, we'll do all right anyway. But if it decides to have a big one slide all at once, we could be in trouble, especially on the coasts.
Yeah, all those glaciers, just imagine if all that stuff, those glaciers from Antarctica and the Arctic, if that starts shearing off and melting, the ice melt, that'll flow into our oceans and that'll flood us.
Hmm.
So,
Well, it won't flood me. I'm in the Sierras. That's Lou, who always makes a cameo in every interview I do.
sure, sure, that's
Well,
cool.
well, we live in a small apartment, so it's not like he has anywhere else to go.
That's okay. He's part of the secret space program too.
Well, at least he puts up with me. So
Oh, it's awesome.
there are days that's not an easy job.
Mm. And
When I get new alters come up,
and
their memories come with them, and some of them are as traumatic as the initial memories that came up 5 years ago.
and that's
So,
those altars are from the Mars Force, Mars Defense Force, and Nacht Waffen, Dark Fleet, right? And other
Um,
CIA Langley.
this was from Langley. They mind fractured me when I was 4, and I'm still working on reintegrating alters. If Stuart Swerdlow is correct for all the projects, I believe him about the project he was in, that they did a 13 by 13 by 13 cube array to have that many alters to program. And it would make sense for all of the projects to do that.
Yeah, and you
But
have memories from Kruger as well.
yeah, I've reintegrated 30, so the 13 by 13 by 13 cube puts it over 2,000, so I still have a long way to go.
Wow. I don't remember any alters from the Planetary Corporation, so in my time on Mars, or as it's called, the Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate, ICC. I just remember a lot of 60 and back time dilation, time travel between different timelines, back from Earth to Mars and back to Earth and again on various missions, and doing a 60 years with time travel.
Well, I know there was time travel involved in mine, and that I have 4 alters currently active in space in cloned bodies. And I wake up in them when they're under stress.
Wow.
So those will probably be, when they die in their clone bodies, will probably be the next alters that I reintegrate, because the veil is getting thin between us.
For sure. And you're still serving on the Nacht fleet, Nacht Waffen
Yes.
fleet.
I have 2 alters serving in Nacht Waffen right now.
And that's Dark Fleet.
That's Dark Fleet. And one is serving in Kruger as a pilot. And she is actually a cyborg. And the one is serving with the CIA on Earth.
Yeah,
and in my body.
Wow. And you recently, you guys did a show with Kyle, who is a male SSP asset in the Nacht Waffen Dark Fleet.
Yes. Yes, he's a major in Nacht Waffen, and he's assigned to captain a spy ship, and we have 4 human crew people. We're the officers, and the other 2 serve on the ship, and the rest of the 20-man crew are ETs, and we pretend to be pirates, or what's the right word? Smugglers. That's the right word. We're pretending to be smugglers, and we carry a lot of stuff that is contraband or not easily gotten in space, not for common people. And we go to a lot of the mining asteroids and the smaller colonies, and we're just basically getting intel for Nacht Waffen, and we're selling contraband and picking up information along the way. So basically like undercover cops.
Now, Kyle, is he your superior?
Yes, he's my superior officer there.
And Kyle, that's a pseudonym name. He's choosing to stay anonymous to protect himself and his family.
Yes, the country he lives in has a policy of experiencers are insane and not suitable for raising children. So they go through and take the children from the experiencers who come forward.
Yeah. So
He also has a job where he has to testify in court, and if it were known that he was experiencing Nacht Waffen on an ongoing and regular basis, then he would lose his job.
yeah, so it's for his own protection that he goes under a pseudonym, but he feels compelled to come forward and tell his side of the story because it's important to know what the Nacht Waffen is doing, and because it's horrible. I have some of my own memories of Nacht Waffen, Reguerre, as it's called, Night Weapons War, and there's a Spanish side to it as well, not just the German, where they basically they have these barge ships, fleet ships, where you're tortured, interrogated, you end up swimming in your own blood in these cleaner rooms, basically. So wet rooms, as they're called, the CIA Langley wet rooms, they call them wet rooms on Earth. On the Nacht Waffen barge ships, they're just called bloodbath rooms, where you swim in your own blood after they beat you up and torture you and electrocute you. You're half dead and you get to swim for a couple of hours in your own blood. And then you're infested with archons after you're healed.
Well, I didn't experience that part of it, so I can't address that. I do know that my ship was used to transport prisoners of war from the Draco Wars that we assisted in, and that they were taken to planetary corporation sites to be converted into cyborgs. We don't just do that to humans, we do it to prisoners of war as well.
And what do you remember of how the cyborgs are made and where they're made? Can you talk about that a little bit?
They used to just have 2 bases on Mars, and over the years they've expanded. There's a huge base on Pluto that has tripled the capacity to produce cyborgs. That when some of the whistleblowers are talking about our planetary corporation products being sold to 1,000 ET races, our main products are cyborgs, and their leftover body parts are basically freeze-dried to be food. So we are the product being sold.
Yeah, and I remember from my own memory regression sessions, hypnosis regression / shamanic past life regression as well, the cybernetic labs connected with the Mars bases on Mars. The planetary corporations are in charge of those, so they bring in live people who are alive, prisoners, abductees. They hang them up on metal hooks, they're alive and suffering, and then they cut them up and splice them with cybernetic technology that has nanotech in it, and you have a cyborg.
Well, my understanding from waking up inside my cyborg altar is that there's only a small component of the brain that's actually used, and enough extra to support the organics. She has simple awareness, like what some of the earth religions are talking about, being in the now. That's all she has, is being in the now. She knows her memory is stored in the electronic chips, not in her brain, and she knows just enough to know where she's going, how to get there, and to watch for the space critters along the way. If there were a problem with the passengers in the shuttle, I'm not sure she has the awareness to even be able to handle it.
Well, recently Netflix came out with a TV show called Altered Carbon. It takes 300 years in the future, and basically they have revived a man who was in special forces. His name is, I believe, Takashi something or other. That's the name. And he's special forces, and he kind of went rogue from special forces in space and on Earth originally. And he tried to stop the technology, the stack technology, where basically your soul memories are taken from you and downloaded into these special nano digital chips. And then they can clone your body, take your original genetics and DNA, have it on file in their genetic labs, and make carbon copy clones of you. Exact carbon copy that does not degrade, literally.
Well, what I saw on Mars is a magnetic bottle that's about the size of a 5-gallon liquid petroleum tank. And that's what they're currently storing souls and their memories in. And they can clone anyone in under 24 hours without a mind. Well, actually, there is a mind. It's just not developed enough to have the ability to resist possession. And when they take the soul out of the bottle and put it into the cloned body, that's what it is. It's possession. The cloned person is being possessed by the other mind. And to call it anything else is imprecise, incorrect, and morally wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. I remember similar things where when I was on the Mars basis in the cybernetic labs, what they do is bring in people, right? Kidnapped, abducted, whatnot, or prisoners. They take their soul essence, their energetic 3D matrix or other higher dimensional soul, and they did it with ETs too, humanoid looking ETs. They take out their soul, put it into an electromagnetic stasis field chamber, and it could stay there for weeks. And then afterwards, they take the soul of whoever they took, and they put it in either into a cybernetic body, they could put it into a cloned body, or an avatar body, which is basically a human ET hybridized body that's been genetically engineered. It's organic, and they could put that soul in there, or they could put the soul into a bioroid, which is very little nanotech, like nanotechnology is fused with the human body. So it's not a cyborg, but it is a bioroid, syntheroid type of a body. Synthetic body, synthetic organic body.
That would be like the art that Tomas Alban has been doing recently from his own memories.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Tomas Alban draws a lot of clones, CGI clones, because he remembers being out in the rim with clones on space stations. He's the founder of the Secret Space Program group, Tomas Alban. He remembers being part of the SSP out on the rim in space.
Yeah. And I wanted to make a comment that I've been hearing in chat, Messenger, on Facebook, that people are saying that Nacht Waffen is gone. And I have 2 alters that are currently serving in Nacht Waffen, and they are alive and well, and Nacht Waffen is still there and hasn't gone anywhere. So I don't know where people are getting their information other than wishful thinking.
Well, a Nacht Waffen scout ship, huge vessel, showed up at Rochelle Stanton Force near her house in Australia, by her house. a few
Yeah,
weeks ago.
she told me that she saw me on the ship dressed in Earth level street clothes, and I have no doubt that she saw me, but at the same time I have no personal memory of it. So I believe her, I just can't confirm it.
Yeah, she contacted me and she sent me two photos of of
Mhm.
of a triangular shaped cloud that looks like a Nacht Waffen battle cruiser or a scout ship. It's
Mhm.
huge, and it was just
Yeah, I saw the photos. They were incredible. It was so obvious that's what it was.
yeah, and it was cloaked within the cloud. It's an actual physical ship, metallic ship cloaked within the cloud. It's just shielded by cloaking technology. And
Hmm.
it's made to look like a cloud cover, so it could spy on Rochelle, and it did abduct her. It actually took her up on the ship.
Yeah. Um, there have been probably 8 of my friends ab- in abductions of one sort or another in the last 30 days. Some of them have had really horrific experiences. 2 men were anally raped and came back in a bloody mess, and I felt so bad for them, so bad for them.
Is that Nacht Waffen abduction?
They didn't know who had abducted them. They they just knew that they were brought back like that. And one of them was so embarrassed he wouldn't even go to the hospital. And that was just, that's horrid.
Yeah, I mean, bleeding out of your anal cavity is no fun, and you're embarrassed because if you go into the emergency room, the doctor, they might think you're gay, or what the heck did you do with your ass? Like, why are you
Yeah.
bleeding out of your anal rectum?
Well, the one that did go told the medical people that he had been constipated and injured himself trying to relieve the situation.
Wow.
But that's at least a legitimate excuse for the medical community, because they're sure not going to want to hear that you were abducted and came back like that.
Yeah, you
That
were.
that would get you a hug me coat.
Yep, the one white robe to a loony bin
Exactly.
to a
So
psych ward.
so if you all of our listeners, if you are abducted and you come back with anal bleeding, tell the doctors you were constipated. Get treated. We don't want anyone bleeding to death.
Yeah, or you have an anal infection somehow, because that's plausible too. That can
Mm-hmm.
happen. The rectum is a long tube in the bum, so it can get infected easily, and you know stuff happens there. It's not pretty, and accidents happen too. So, and
Well,
abduction experiences come in all kinds of forms, shapes, and sizes. You might be bleeding out of your eye, your nose. You might have bruises. You might have like these injection marks that are bleeding on your body too. So it's weird.
I have scars on my arm here.
Yeah,
There.
yeah, I can see
It's
that.
not gonna. It's when it was originally done in 1995, it was 2 um, squares on point that were within a quarter inch of touching, and they've itched. So over the years, I've scratched the hell out of them, and only one is still visible as a square.
Yeah, and during abduction, people could be injected with nanotech to basically try to kill you, ruin your autoimmune system, your nervous system. Then you get weird, rare autoimmune disorders like Hashimoto's encephalopathy, multiple sclerosis, and other rare autoimmune
Well,
disorders, lupus.
I was diagnosed with lupus in 1982, and when I wasn't dead in 2000, they decided it was fibromyalgia instead. but it's been the same symptoms all along.
Yeah.
So
For me, it's
I'm not worrying about what label as long as I don't die from it.
Yeah, yeah. For me, it's a rare autoimmune disorder called Hashimoto's encephalopathy, where basically my autoimmune system's failing, and I have to get special subcutaneous immunoglobulin IG therapy, which is plasma infusions.
That's really hard to get in the States. You're lucky that they're letting you have that in Canada.
Well, it wasn't easy to get. I had to write specialized letters to the um, to an immunoglobulin specialist, um, and I had to really say what my condition is, what the side effects are of this condition, and why I medically need it to prove that I actually need it. And I got it after a lot of hassle. I got it, and now I'm going for an assessment, and then I'm going to start learning how to infuse myself, because these are infusions that go into the stomach under the skin, and it slowly infuses into my body, because I tried the intravenous immunoglobulin therapy, but that created a lot of side effects because the infusion rate was very quick into my bloodstream.
Yeah.
The SCIG will be under my skin in the stomach, so it'll be a little bit less invasive.
That'll be good.
Yeah, and it's basically blood product that's separated from the blood. It's plasma. People don't eat blood and plasma, and it's separated, and then the plasma is, I transfuse myself with the plasma. Basic infusions, home infusions with a pump and a syringe and needles, and the immunoglobulin product itself.
Yeah, and people are going to be listening to this and going, I thought they were going to talk about contact in the desert.
Well, we are, but we have
Well,
other business we'd like to
gonna
discuss.
we're gonna gross them out first.
Of course, yeah. Well, we have
Yeah.
abduction experiences. Just because we're out of the secret space program from the permanent program mission, and service, we are still taken occasionally for different missions.
I'm taken on a regular and ongoing basis. I wake up in an altar at least a couple of times a week, and those are altars that are out there in a spectrum, and I'm just waking up in points on them. So I wake up in them often enough to know that they're on ongoing missions, basically what they're doing out there, and some of who they're working with. And the cyborg altar that works for Kruger is why I remembered James Rink. The first time I saw him, I was like, whoa, I know you. And he was like, really? And I go, yeah, I know you, except you're supposed to be taller. And he was like, okay, let's hear a description. So I went with it. But it was the cyborg that remembered him. And we eventually did a regression hypnosis so that an artist could draw what he looked like in Kruger based on my memories. And that was a year ago in April.
Yeah, and James Rink is a super soldier who actually was the very first one to interview a lot of us.
Well, he was the second one to interview me. I was in a Facebook group, Decoders of Truth, and I was annoyed by some of the things that they were posting about ETs. And so I just started sharing what I knew. And the thread ended up something like 600 comments. And I would just go through and answer them. And I was coming up with online art to back up what I was saying. This is what they look like. This is what they act like. This is what they eat, what they don't eat. And the founder of that group, Jay Campbell, got a hold of me in chat, and he says, "You're on her show Thursday." I was like, okay. And there were three very intelligent men who just popped questions at me. And I learned from their questions that there are certain things I don't want to talk about. As a general rule, I do not talk about my personal spiritual views. It gets too far into it. I don't talk about my psychic experiences that are not related to the SSP. Because that muddies the water. People start thinking that the SSP is just a bunch of psychic nuts. And that's where we're getting the information that Nacht Waffen isn't real, is from the psychics. And so, you know, I do have psi abilities that were enhanced by military laboratories before I was born. Some of them are 90% reliable, others more like 20% reliable. And I won't share information until I've had it verified by somebody else, because I know it's not 100%. Yeah. But if you're telling me something that I know isn't true, your information from that point on goes in the shit can.
Yeah, and that's why we have to kind of speak to each other, the SSP assets and experiencers. We have our own network, and we have our own Facebook group, Secret Space Program group, and we double check and verify what the experiences are that we've been having. And we've had some weirdo experiences in June and other months that, you know, make it very suspicious sometimes in what these programs do to us. I mean, I have memories of in the Nacht Waffen of hands being chopped off and then electrocuted with electrical prods and being reattached to the Nacht Waffen assets.
Now that I do remember. And if they're too rough on us, they just dump us in the regen tank. We come back whole with the memory of what they did to us.
Yeah, and beating us, poking us with nails and electric prods.
They're not nice to us.
No. Having dogs and wolves chew us up and burning us on fire while we're tied up on a metal pole, upside down.
I remember being set on fire. I don't remember the dogs. That might have been a generational thing, because you are younger than I am.
Yeah. That's actually not my memory. It's a memory of me seeing somebody else it happening to somebody else, but I was a witness to it, because they put in the Nacht Waffen regard, they put me in as a witness to see these horrible things being done to others, so I would know not to misbehave when I was loaned out to the Nacht Waffen.
Yeah, we do. I say we because I still have 2 altars there. But it's a Teutonic society. It's not an empathetic, gentle society. It's a place of warriors. Even the women are warriors. And you are expected to fight for your place in society. And if you're weak, you will be replaced. Assets are valued for their productivity, not for their existence. If you're not productive and you're a pain in the ass as far as your personality, you're out the airlock. Of course, the ship's captain has tons of paperwork to fill out afterwards to justify it. But if you're enough of a pain in the ass for the captain to think it's worth the paperwork, you're gone.
Yeah. Or if the higher ups, you're a pain in the ass, but the higher ups want to keep you They just put some archons into you, infest you with other nasty beings, energetic beings, or worm-like, because there are small beings with sentience that stick it up your ear, up your nose, up your mouth, and then it takes you over and it literally possesses you, and it goes about torturing others, doing horrible things, and you're well aware of it because you're still in your body. Your soul is in the
Well,
body, and you watch the atrocities of what they do in your body.
I haven't had that. What I had was computer chips. I had computer chips that bypassed where most of my memory was sent to the ship's computer, and even though I was still in a physical body, I was more or less a cyborg. My free will was taken from me.
Yeah.
And I have an alter that's in trouble right now for it's not exactly murder because she knew he was going to be put in the regen tank, but she killed her commanding officer, and no, it wasn't Kyle. And it was a different alter. For those who speak German, what they call me there when I'm in trouble is Missgeburt, which is translated into English as an abomination that survived an abortion. That's what they refer to me as when I get in trouble. And I don't know what that alter did, but her commanding officer got inches from her nose and screamed that at her. And she overrode our firewall, which is probably why I was present for this. But she fried his brain because she'd had it with being called that. And he was dumped into a regen tank, and she went through court-martial over it. And I have not heard what happened to her over that.
And how did she fry his brain?
Psychically.
That's typical.
Yeah. Well, that's what they made sure we were able to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we were supposed to use it against enemies, but you get called names long enough in that kind of a culture, and you're going to just eventually snap and say, enough. Or as the word popped up, genug. No more. So, but yeah. Just thinking about it, I'm sliding into German, so my English may be messed up for a little while.
That's okay. I have memories of having Neuralink implants in my brain. These like nanofiber gold filament implants that cannot be detected by MRI or other scanners or X-ray or CT, and being linked to ships. Also having my soul literally removed from my body and being placed into other organic bodies. Not sure if it was a clone or an avatar or what, because an avatar could be a human ET hybrid, genetically engineered body that's spliced and diced with different sorts of human and ET DNA. And I remember, I think that's what it was. It was an organic avatar body, and that's what I was placed in. And no, that type of avatar is not a virtual reality type of an avatar. It's an organic body that's made of different genetics from ETs and human. And
well, I have
organic avatar.
I have memories of being in a clone body and looking behind me and seeing this body in a tank in stasis, because they had transferred my consciousness from this body into the clone. And so I'm aware that tech is involved.
Yes, tech is involved, definitely. And they can store your memories and back it up in sort of like in a nanotech microchip, or what an altered carbon in that show is called a stack.
Mm-hmm.
A nanotechnology digital stack that's circular and round.
I don't think we have that particular technology yet, because I definitely remember the magnetic bottles being, this big or so. Yeah. And that the technology that was being used in 2016, if you've only been dead a week, you have full memory. If you've been dead 4 months, you don't. If you've been dead longer than 4 months, they have to teach you like an infant how to use a body again. So that was the standard on Mars in 2016, when I was activated to watch the rebodying of a person who was killed on Earth. Yeah. They wanted me to know that this individual was going to be alive again. So I had to watch the process.
For me, it was more like the stacking technology with the nano chip. I saw people, their memories being backed into Neuralink implants or the stack technology. And when I saw altered carbon, I'm like, soul memories on these nanotech chips and implanted into the clone bodies, or your memory engrams somehow technologically from the database through electromagnetic field sequences from the supercomputer being somehow transferred through the Neuralink technology, that Neuralink implants, getting those memories put into another body.
I want to make a statement about the person who was rebodied. Mm-hmm. It was someone that I knew really well, and he was purchased after his death on Earth by a set of mantids. They bought his stored soul and his tissue samples, and they had their own regen tank that they used to produce a clone and install him in it. And he had been dead long enough at that point that he had to be retaught how to use a body. So this tech is in use now.
Yeah.
So, and they took me to see him at various stages of his rebodying process, because they knew that we had a soul link, and that he was having trouble because he was being raised by ETs, and they had to have a human to interact with him to teach him how to live in his body again. Mm-hmm. So I haven't seen him since, but there are days I think, was this just a nightmare? And then there are other days, well, yeah, I guess that did happen.
Well, I have memories of when somebody's soul is put into a cybernetic body. You have to integrate that soul matrix into the cyborg body to learn how to walk and talk, to basically get used to being in a cybernetic body, and it could take like from 2 to 3 weeks to fully become cognizant that your soul is now in a different body, and how to learn to use that body because it has cybernetics in it. So to integrate and adjust, like there is an adjustment period from on those cybernetic Mars labs. That's where my memory comes from, because I was basically a body parts control, quality control technician, also checking different body tissues, samples, bones, whatever they gave me. I had to check it to make sure it would be viable to splice with cybernetics, and also genetics specialist in splicing, dicing DNA and genetics together, the genome, making sure everything worked. So when that cyborg was fully functional and the soul is integrated into the cyborg from the soul transference technology, then fitting that cyborg with its exoskeleton suit and then the smart suit. It's genetically coded only to that cyborg, the smart suit and the exoskeleton suit, so nobody else could wear it. Because if you cannot type in the correct genetics imprint, like with the bioscanner, the laser bioscanner, or what we call a iris scanner, right? Or palm print, if it can't check your genetics, then it's somebody else, and the suit won't be compatible with that other cyborg, or what other body you're in. It's only coded and programmed for your own DNA sequence and nobody else's. So we had to fit these cyborgs for these exoskeleton suits and these smart suits. And it took time to do that too.
I bet. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and
Thinking about
yeah, it was done on the cybernetic labs attached to the Mars base as planetary corporations. So I was floored when I saw altered carbon, because the stacks where your memory engrams are placed in those stacks, and also backed up on satellites in space, in that TV show that takes 300 years in the future, takes place 300 years. The clones, the bioroids, the syntheroid bodies, that's all planetary corporation disclosure for Mars, that show.
Yeah.
Whoever bought Netflix and did Altered Carbon, they're disclosing Planetary Corp, or ICC, otherwise, as another whistleblower calls it.
I have a question, because I have a friend who has been Nacht Waffen, and his father died, and he's completely in dissociation. And I talked to him about that he needed to actually mourn, because he was going to do the body harm if he didn't.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know how to turn his emotional body back on. How do we... I remember I went through Healing of Memories in 1999, and as part of the process, that turned my emotional body back on. But that was a religious event. That wasn't something you can just say, oh yeah, we can do this, and blast. You know.
Slowly doing the emotional reintegration, little bits, one day at a time, little bits, part of the emotional, coming back emotionally and not being dissociated from those feelings of his father passing. And the person is probably dealing with Nacht Waffen memories and recall as well. So it's tough. So do it very slowly, one part of the emotion at a time, not all of it all together quickly, like have it all reintegrated one day or even 2 or 3 weeks. One portion at a time of the emotional reintegration.
Well, I know I was in Healing of Memories for 1.5 years, and it was a process that brought it back. And at the end, I got told, and don't go there again, which has been tough, because when that's what you're entrained to do, in stress, the entrainment will take over,
Yeah.
and you find yourself back to not feeling.
Slow, very slow, because feelings are a special thing. So if you force them back too quickly, you'll be burnt out quickly too. You'll get stressed out and burned out, and then you'll dissociate again. So it has to be done very, very slowly, one emotion, one experience at a time, so you don't
Mm-hmm.
overstress that person who's had the loss of a loved one.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
and gently, just do it gently.
Gently.
Yeah, very gently, and one day at a time.
Yeah. One of the things that I've been doing with peer counseling the veterans, I hadn't even approached the topic of disassociation with most of them because they're too busy freaking out. Um, I had this dream. They can't even accept that the dreams are actually flashbacks. So how can you address the rest of the issues?
Yep.
So
Memory recall through dreams.
yeah,
That
well,
happens.
it's the same thing as the Vietnam vets and the um, the veterans from the Middle Eastern wars in America have had. You have flashbacks and they're so real, and then you wake up and it was, oh, that was just a dream, because they don't want to deal with the original event that they're reliving.
Yeah, we wish it was a dream, but it's not. It's memory flashback recall. It lives, these memory recalls, they live in your cellular genetic memory. Your DNA is alive, it's cellular memory. So it is encoded in you for life.
Hmm.
And your other
Whether they've
past lives
whe-
too.
whether they've erased your mind memory or not, it's still there and cellular, and your subconscious remembers it all.
Yeah, it's there deeply on a genetic cellular memory level, and it's there in your mind as well subconsciously, and slowly, no matter how much those memories were erased or repressed, eventually they come back. Something will trigger the remembrance cycle.
Well, it can be pretty overwhelming. Uh, the memories from my first altar all came rushing back at once, and there were past life memories that were tossed in for good measure. Apparently, in that first altar, I was regressed for all of my ET past lives. And so when that first altar came back, all that came too. And there for a while, I thought I was insane. And I'm really lucky that Lou has been here for me, because he he's a shaman and he's been helping me with shamanic techniques, and they've been incredibly useful.
Well, I can relate to that because to deal with all the extraterrestrial, remembering the extraterrestrial abductions, the reptilians, the Sharab Invictus, and the Black Drazo, and the human underground basis, and the nanotech being infested with that near Rostov area, where it was a militarized zone in former Soviet Union. That came back first. Then the SSP stuff came back, being on Mars, as being abducted and doing the 16 back. The, the Monarch programming, the Monarch training,
Mm-hmm.
to open the Stargate with portals naturally with my psionic abilities, that training. All of that came back and was very traumatic, and I did take Native American shamanism courses to become a Native American shamanic practitioner. I also took white light Wicca magic training crystal healing, Akashic records, anything, Reiki energy, healing, moving energy, psychic development.
The Akashic. I had always been blocked going into my own Akashic records until last month. A friend was able to get me there, and I had asked a question what I was looking for, and I was shown out of a TV show what the answer was, and I was like, wow. So yeah, that was pretty incredible.
Yeah, and you also, like, I learned to do shamanic past life regression and the hypnosis, Mary Rodwell's technique and Joe H. Slate, of basically the corridors and their doorway technique, where you walk through the corridor, right? You're in a meditative hypnotic state, and then you walk towards a row of doors on the left hand side and the right hand side, and then you ask a question. Do you want to access SSP memories, extraterrestrial past life experiences, whatnot? The door will glow a certain color, and it will have a certain psychic feeling to it, and you're drawn toward that door, and you enter it, and you see that experience, whatever it is, that memory recall you want to see further into, and you can experience it as if you're there, like in Technicolor, like it's a video happening right in front of your eyes, or you can experience it by stepping back emotionally and just watching it as if you're just a viewer, not a participant in it. And of course, it's best if somebody else does that for you, if a practitioner guides you through it, but you can also do it yourself, like in a meditative state, and listen to a recorded version of that hypnosis regression.
That's interesting.
But you have to kind of select a memory you want to go into, like before you walk into the door. You have to say, I want to see this. If you have some memory recall already, bits and pieces, like Rochelle Stanford does, the SSP acid experiencer from Australia. So she's been doing this, using this technique for a while to get more memory back.
I've got people asking me how to get more memory back, so if you can send me the link to some of those guided ones, I'd be happy to have them.
Yeah, I did the past life guided meditation with the hypnosis technique embedded. What they can do when they're listening to it, substitute the past life for whatever experience they want to see.
Okay.
So it's geared toward past life, but they can just substitute it in their mind and see something else through the doorway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've been like, well, what I know is that people remember more the more they talk. Yeah. And most of what I do in counseling is just listen to people talk, reassure them that they're not batshit, and just keep listening. And if I think they're getting in trouble with depression or self-destruct programming, then I make a referral to a professional, because I don't want to be responsible for anybody out there going off the deep end.
Of course not, and I've been asked to do past life regression as well as hypnosis sessions, the doorways and the corridor technique, and right now I'm not doing that kind of service, healing work and hypnosis sessions. So I've said no, I can't do that for you. But you can do the self-guided meditation that I created, and you can try to get memories back that way. And you just put your cell phone or a recorder on, press the record button, to whatever you're remembering, voice it out. So it's recorded somewhere on something for you to refer back to later.
Yeah, that's important, because in the moment you will forget.
Yeah, you will forget. Like, I was contacted by Gaia TV executives, and they asked me a bunch of questions. Well, how did you get your memories back? What were the triggers? Because they're doing actually a new show for experiencers, secret space program, assets experiencers, super soldiers, whistleblowers, and insiders. So they gave me a bunch of questions, like how did you get your memories back? Do you know for sure these are not just screen memories and you have somebody else's memories planted into you? And I said, no, they're my own memories.
The screen memories thing. Oh. When I first remembered, yes, there were screen memories, but you have to stay aware enough in the trance to say, okay, what's behind this? What really happened? And then it's like a curtain's pulled.
Yeah.
And then you can see what really happened.
Exactly.
But you have to remember to do it.
Yes, you have to set the intention when you go into the hypnosis to clear the screen memories. Like for me with the reptilian abductions, the Sharab Invictus and the Black Drazo, the screen memories that I had as a kid from 2 to 10 was walking into black caves and seeing bats, like huge bats, fly into my face. Those were those scary, nightmarish screen memories for those abduction experiences. The bats were the reptilians, and walking into the dark caves was the underground humanoid bases where the reptilians did the experiments with human military personnel.
Well,
children.
They had abducted me every Friday for years, and I would dream that I was a mermaid in a kelp bed. And that was a screen memory. And when I would get behind that, I would see all kinds of things.
And for you, you know when you're abducted, you have blood sugar stuff happening to you.
I have to take my blood sugar every morning before I take my morning meds. And when I'm abducted, my blood sugar is at least 20 points higher. So it's there in my blood sugar record when I'm abducted and when I'm not. And I've been abducted the last 2 nights.
Yeah, when it happens to me when I'm abducted, I feel very tired and drained physically. Like I have aches and pains, and I have weird memory recall of where I was taken.
Actually, I was on Kael's ship last night, and I don't remember much about it other than I was on that ship last night. So there's no horrific memories attached to it, just I'm really tired. So
you're tired for days. You could be tired for days or even months. And when you're attacked with the Dews, the energy weapons, then you're out for weeks or stuff. Because these are invisible laser weapons that you're attacked with.
Yeah, I was shot in April this year, and it took me until the 3rd week of May to be feeling okay.
Now, can I ask you a question? The Gaia executives that contacted me about this experiencer, the new experiencer show, they said, are you legit? How do you know you're legit? And also, who has vetted you to prove that you're for real? And I'm like, I went through the hypnosis, I went through the past life regression, I have weird medical issues that are hard to explain. Most of us have been through that path of regression and memory recall, the medical weird stuff. You and I both have it. So that's our proof.
Well, I've been contacted by NSA agents. 3 of them since I was activated. The last one told me I'm the last remaining member of my Langley class. It was interesting that she put it in those terms, that I was the last of the class. That's kind of disturbing that the rest of them are all dead now.
Wow.
But that kind of says she's real. And when I broke contact with that agent was when I was shot.
What do you think of these executives contacting different experiencers about, potentially being on the Gaia show? And when I said, I can't travel because of health issues, they said, well, we tape everybody in Boulder, Colorado. You need to come to us. We do the tapings up there. We do it in studio. And I said, why don't you do digital taping? Most live streaming platforms do have digital recording of interviews and stuff if you can't come to them. Why wouldn't you not still get an experiencer's interview digitally? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think they're impressed with their success and think that we should be as well.
Well,
I deal with a lot of people that are living in ego, so I just sort of, okay, that's where you are. Alrighty. Well, I'm here to fight kidnapping and slavery, so if you can deal with my agenda, I can deal with yours, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, if they invited you, if Gaia TV invited you to go up to Boulder, would you go?
Depending on what their contract was about, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't borrow money to go, but yeah, I would make the effort just to have a bigger audience. At this point, I don't care if people know me or believe me or not. I'm not in this about me. I'm in this about the 2 million Earth humans that are kidnapped to be turned into cyborgs every year. I'm here about the kids that are being abducted at night to go to Kael's kids called it secret spy school.
Oh yeah,
because these are kids that are being kidnapped to be the next generation of the SSP.
Yeah.
That's who I'm worried about. The kids that are being groomed already. At 3 and 4 years old, they're being groomed to be what we were. And they're not. How the hell does a 3-year-old choose to be this?
You don't choose. You're abducted. You're kidnapped. It's against your free will. Children?
Exactly. And I keep being told by these New Age, feely people, well, you agreed to this at some level. And I'm like, no, I didn't. I was born into a family that they had already put dibs on because of our genetics.
Yeah.
I did not agree to this. My family has been subjected to this since at least my mother, because she also has alters. But if you ask her, I'm just batshit.
For me, I was just, I've had past lives as extraterrestrials, and I actually have extraterrestrial DNA in this body. I have DNA sequencing that's not human. It's Andromedan Pleiadian hybrid. And you can call me batshit crazy for sure, yeah, if I say that, but that's what I have in my body. And that's why the SSP took me, for my psionic abilities and for those extraterrestrial memories that I have in me of being able to create advanced technology, whether that's spaceships, medical, whatnot. I have those memories of extraterrestrial experiences from past lives, of being ETs. So they took me for that reason alone, to get to those memories and to replicate that advanced tech.
My understanding is that they were shocked that I was born into this bloodline. They did not expect me. And they don't intend to ever let me loose. And I did have ET past lives. And I mean, let's get real. I'm 62. I'm the last of my class at Langley, and I'm still alive, and I'm causing them enough trouble that they've shot me 10 times in 2 years, and I'm still alive, and I'm still causing them trouble.
We all are causing them trouble.
So, if back to your question about Gaia, they have not contacted me. As a friend, I would let you know if they had. If they still allowed me to own my intellectual property, my personal memories, and my personal story, I would probably tell my story, because people are accepting Gaia as a place that vets people. Now, the question becomes, what criteria are they using to vet people? Are they using the criteria of, oh, you're telling the same story that we already know? Which is what they apparently did with Corey Good. Yeah. Or are they using the criteria that Richard Dolan came up with, that you have to have been military on Earth or government, you have to be educated, you have to be, basically an elite? And what earthly reason would a person like that have to whistleblow? I mean, really. They're not picking people like that to go to the special ops. They're picking people that nobody's gonna fucking miss them.
Which is us.
Us. They're not picking people that are, well, they're not picking total idiots either. So we tend to be smarter than the average bear. We tend to be sicker than the average bear because of what they did to us.
Yep.
We tend to sound insane because we've lived in more than one reality simultaneously. And that is not something that the normal person can wrap their head around.
No.
Most of us still make sense anyway.
Oh, that's true.
And we're telling the same basic theme. It's not fun and games up there. It's a nightmare. It will make your head spin. You will have nightmares for the rest of your fucking life. And people think that you're a rock star for this? No.
And we are not glamorizing the secret space program. This is not a game. This is not a video game. This is a reality that happened to us or is still happening to us. Being abducted, being anally probed and something shoved up your ass and left bleeding afterwards is not fun. Waking up sick as a dog from age regression. Trying to convince your doctors that you're not a loony bin and that you need specialized medication to get better, to get the white matter lesion out of your brain because you had Neuralink implants. Now your brain is scarred for life practically. If you don't get your special meds, you don't get treated basically. So, and these are not psychedelic medications for the loony bin.
I'm in endocrine shutdown. Okay, my thyroid stopped working, my adrenals stopped working, I'm now diabetic, my ovaries stopped working, producing hormones a long time before I hit menopause. I am meds dependent because endocrine shutdown is like the last stage before you die from autoimmune disorder.
Yep.
So I'm looking at this, I got nothing to lose.
Exactly.
I'm dying. And whether it takes tomorrow or 20 years, I'm going to spend that time telling what these assholes are doing to human beings. And in the hopes that enough people will believe me and listen to what I have to say, to actually get off their butts, contact Congress. Congress has oversight of the CIA. If they would exercise it, they could put a stop to this tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's the legal basis. Congress could put a stop to all of this tomorrow if they would.
But they don't want to tell us the truth. They just want all of this to continue in secret, to kidnap us, to use us, to torture us, to basically make us walking, talking nightmares.
Exactly. Because it's not their kids.
Nope. And actually, they have technology when they do take you into the programs. They have technology to stop time literally, to have these, basically, there's these electromagnetic fields, frequency, everything is alive, right? And it has an electromagnetic field and frequency. They have these generators on the ships that can literally freeze flash time and make people fall asleep and erase their memories. And when you're kidnapped, you're taken either through the soul transference or you're physically taken. Your parents are snoring away next door or in another room. They won't even know you were taken.
Exactly. They don't know that their lovely, innocent child is going to be taken and mind fractured and raped and used as slave labor for the next however long.
Exactly.
Yeah, it can be anywhere from 20 to 80 years in each time they take you. You can be gone and then come back as that same innocent little child who now has alters and nightmares and a personality change. When they took my youngest kid, okay, I knew when he was taken that something was wrong because he would stand in the middle of the living room with his hands in fists at his side and just scream blood-curdling screams for hours on end. Oh, sorry. David Wilcox says that we're returned with no damage.
That's not true, because through time travel, time dilation, they could take us from any point in time and return us to the same point. And
well, usually within 15 minutes.
Yeah, and it could be 15 minutes, it could be an hour, it could be 5 days, and you returned within that 15 minutes back from when they took you. And it's as if nothing ever happened. You can't report it to the police. Nobody has seen it happening because through time dilation, time travel, it can be done. There is that technology to do it. That's what I told the two guy execs. It's time travel, time dilation matrix technology. On the ships, through portal systems, they have it everywhere. Jump rooms, platforms.
There are a handful of technologies that they use that make it impossible to get basic humans to understand it. First is time travel. The second is the regeneration tank, where they can reset you to any weight or age. The third one is the soul transfer tech. Those three by themselves make it where you sound batshit to a normal human that's living in the equivalent of 1950 America. I mean, let's get real. That's where most of them live. It
Yeah.
may be 2018, but they're living in 1950 America. Where the man goes to work, the wife stays home and takes care of the kids or has a part-time job to help with the bills, and the kids go to school and nobody pays attention to them. And if they're religious, they go to church, synagogue, or whatever they call the Islamic centers.
Sunday school,
Yeah,
church.
they'll go to that, and they come out and they're worse than when they went in. And then the next Saturday night they're out getting drunk before they go to church again. That is American culture.
Yeah.
So that's what we have exported to the rest of the so-called free world, and now what used to be the communist world. So I understand the mess we're in. We've got people that can't pull their heads out of their asses to save their own lives.
Yeah, and I have no problem saying that we have been mind controlled, we have been brainwashed, mind control, manipulation through the holographic memory inserts, false memories, or the screen memories. There's this movie called Ender's Game, where at 10 or
I
13,
haven't watched it,
yeah,
so go ahead.
yeah, where they're at 10 or 13, and this again is like in the future, almost 100 years in the future, where child population has been reduced because it's overpopulated. The world is overpopulated, so you're allowed to only have 2 or 3 children. And you have to get permission from the government. And basically, these kids are taken 10, 13, 15, and older, and they're sent off world to battle school, either on space stations or other planets, to be prepared to fight these bug extraterrestrials, to annihilate them.
Mantids.
Mantids or other, bug species, because there's tons of
The,
them.
the mantids were one of the two races we were fighting on Mars.
Yeah, yeah. In this movie, it's some other. It's not the mantids. It's another bug species who has a queen and a hive mind, and
Mantids.
or
Mantids by any other name are still mantids.
insectoid creatures. Let's just say insectoid creatures. So those insectoid creatures actually, their planet was dying, so they wanted to colonize part of Earth, but they didn't think that the human race was a sentient species because we were so barbaric. So in turn, basically
I can see their point.
yeah, the U.S. military, the American military, and all the other world militaries got together and created this space fleet and this battle school for training kids to become battle captains and marshals and military captains, and then invade the bug species and destroy them through children. Doesn't that sound like the secret space program and abduction of kids and training them to be
Yeah,
soldiers?
that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
We
Um,
are abducted in early childhood so that they can create alters, and then we are taken into space and we are trained to be soldiers, and we kill on command without any understanding of it at all.
yeah.
And then when we survive all that and we're sent home, if we can remember that we did it, then we start thinking about the consequences.
Exactly. Exactly. And the consequences. For example, I don't think those guy execs believe me. They asked for my medical records, tests, and whatnot to prove that I have Hashimoto's encephalopathy. I think that's what they wanted my medical records for. Well, they can't have the medical records, the reports from doctors, because those reports are privacy and confidentiality, protected by privacy and confidentiality, and I think they're copyrighted. I'm not allowed to give out doctors' reports to third parties. You can
Really?
only,
They do that in Canada?
well,
In,
no,
in, in the United States, we have this thing called the HIPAA law. where you have to sign about 15 papers before your records can be sent to anyone. And then they are only allowed to share it with the people that are on the cover sheet.
Yeah. Well, we're not allowed to share medical reports from doctors with anybody but other doctors who you're seeing in Canada. And you can have a personal copy of your medical report from doctors. But you're not allowed to share it with third parties like guy executives.
Well, the guy executives are in America, so they wouldn't understand the Canadian law.
Well,
So
it sounds like your law is similar to what ours is. You don't share your medical doctor's reports with anybody but other doctors that you see or yourself.
we have to share them with every insurance company there is almost, and they put them online and share them with each other so that you cannot change companies because nobody will take you. And the government keeps a copy under Obamacare, and yeah, it's everybody and his brother gets a copy except you.
Wow.
And then you have to pull teeth to get copies of your own records. And part of that is because they tend to make somewhat rude personal comments about your appearance and habits.
Wow. Well,
I have read my file and in several doctors' offices when they used to have them on a paper copy and you could just open them. My doctor's office doesn't do that anymore. It's all on a supposedly closed system computer, but you can sign in and get your own read your own reports, just not all of them. The ones where they say, "Oh, I have a weight issue because my thyroid and adrenals don't work." And I have several friends who did a water fast. So I asked my doctor about that. So because I asked about a water fast when I'm a diabetic, they put in that I was suicidal.
That's crazy. That's not fair to you.
That was one of the things that I read in my file.
Wow.
So this is the kind of nonsense we have going on here.
Wow.
I'm obviously in a setup for them to eventually put me under psychiatric care.
Well, from knowing you, I don't think you need psychiatric care. I think you're 100% sane and all there, and you live your life. And I've been talking to you for almost 2 years, so I know you're not batshit and you don't need psychiatric meds or to be under psychiatric evaluation or care. I don't think so.
I'm occasionally angry over what's been done to me, but I'm not out there trying to kill anybody, and I'm not a danger to myself or others, and that's the criteria in California for being committed, is a danger to yourself or others, and I'm not.
You're not. I 100% can say you're not, and I've known you way too long, and I've had phone conversations with you, I've texted with you, I've done interviews with you, so you're 100% sane. You've just been in the SSP, and so have I, so we've had weird life experiences that are hard to understand for doctors or psychiatrists or whoever else.
Well, I see myself as basically a hippie earth mother who's had a lifetime of hell.
Yep.
So I may be a little bit angry and bitter sometimes, but that goes with the territory.
Oh, of course it does. And for those guy execs, medical reports, I would never give them that, because I think medical reports from doctors are copyrighted by law too. Somebody wrote that report. It's a medical report about your health and your sanity or insanity or whatnot, and that's in the doctor's office for a reason. It's not to be handed around town. Blood test results or MRI results, as long as you redact everything, yeah, that I might be willing to share, but not personal medical records written by other doctors. No way, no how. I'm not going to compromise security and the reputation of doctors. Plus my own reputation. No way, no how. If they want medical records, sorry, they're not going to get doctor's reports. There's enough
Well,
evidence to state what.
just asking for it puts them in violation of the HIPAA unless they have a legitimate reason for it.
Yeah, well, they did ask me for my medical records. Would I be willing to share my medical records with them, and also what medical record part of it, the test results for the MRI or the blood work? Sure, that I could share because that's just generated by the system. Not
Well, I'm not going to share what my idiot doctor thinks of my weight or the day that I informed him that I was an MK Ultra and had misgivings about what my alters might be doing. That's none of anybody's business.
No, I mean.
So here I talk about it on an interview.
Yeah, and I have the MRIs to prove the white matter lesion is there. I have the blood work to prove I have Hashimoto's encephalopathy. I also have the research to prove it too. Medical research from Japan and Germany. Protocols.
Cool.
For diagnostic, testing, and treatment of Hashimoto's encephalopathy.
I had enough verification to prove to the Social Security Administration that I was completely and totally disabled and would not recover. So, the fact that I've been on SSDI since 2009 should show that I have the illness that goes with SSP service.
Yeah, and I have the proof that I'm going to be infusing myself with SCIG just so I have enough plasma to live and try to at least eradicate some of the damage that the Hashimoto's encephalopathy has done to me, thanks to the reptilian abductions injecting nanotech into me and causing me to have a rare reported autoimmune disorder that's unexplainable, hard to diagnose, and hard to treat. And most doctors don't believe I even have it, so I have to prove it through research, blood work, and MRI results.
Yeah. Well, since there's no protocols for age regression sickness, I have to deal with what they are willing to diagnose me with.
Exactly, and God knows what they diagnose you with, because human medicine is from the 18th century.
Well, it's like this. When he talked to me, he called it indeterminate it's words like this long. What he puts on the paperwork is fibromyalgia, Addison's disease, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, he did have congestive heart failure on, but I was able to cure that one. Advanced cerebral atrophy, because on the MRI you can put your thumb between the two hemispheres of my brain. But I still make sense when I talk. And what else do I have? I have high blood pressure and high cholesterol, and both of those go with the Hashimoto's. So,
You have diabetes and lupus too.
Yeah, I have diabetes and lupus, and I get kidney infections because of the diabetes, and I have a broken neck, and I get an epidural every 5 months so that I can walk, and I will be due again in August for one of those, and yeah, life gets fun.
Yeah, for me it's a rap sheet of medical weirdness as well. Hemiplegic migraines with paralysis, myoclonic jerks, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, multiple chemical sensitivities, and now Hashimoto's encephalopathy. Oh, and the best part of it too, The doctors have said that I have 4 psychiatric disorders. Somatoform conversion disorder or psychogenic disorder of some sort, but they don't know what causes it or what it is. Gee.
How about trauma-based mind control?
Yep, that would do it. Mind control, manipulation.
But they don't want to admit that that's even a possibility, even though there are reports about it going back into the middle of the 1800s.
Exactly.
So
our medical system, what we have currently, is from the 1800s.
Yeah, there were a lot of advances in the 1930s that were just totally destroyed. A lot of great discoveries were just toilet flushed because they didn't make enough money.
Yeah, and we're constantly dumbed down and brainwashed. Why do you think they have so many fluorescent lights and LEDs everywhere? Basically, having the glare of these lights beam on your head. It's to dumb you down.
Well, I wear this when I'm not on screen. It's a EMF blocker cap. It looks really dorky, so I don't wear it on interviews.
But what does it do?
It's a nylon cap that's embedded with silver and powdered silver. And what it does is it blocks the EMF waves from. We have a major electrical line outside the apartment, and we have 4 smart meters on the outside wall because we're the end apartment. So, and I have a Wi-Fi tower right over there. So what it does is it blocks all of that from hitting my brain. And it also, in the process, stops the V2K, which is also known as synthetic telepathy, and is a form of mind control that is sent to targeted individuals. And I've been a subject of that since the early 1980s. The first generation of it, they pretended to be God. So it's also called Voice of God technology.
Or brain to skull.
Yeah. And what they do is they just talk to you all the time. And when you figure out it's not God, then they start in.
Yeah.
They had a repeating set of about 8 insults that they would just over and over and over and over and over and over, and it wears down your will to live. And according to Dr. Robert Duncan of Harvard, it was developed to see how long it would take to make a normal person kill themselves. And of course, they chose SSP veterans to be their target group.
Of course, yeah. It's like,
Of course, they want to get rid of us.
you hear a voice in your mind. You're automatically crazy. There's nothing else going on. You're schizophrenic. You're hallucinating, psychogenic, whatever disorder, psychiatric illness, or a mental basket case. But it is a technology that controls you and gives you commands in your head.
The way to test for it is to get a big pasta pot and put it over your head. And if the voice stops, it's technology.
And what is that pasta pot made out of? Metal.
Exactly.
Which is a diffuser for stopping the step.
It's basically a Faraday cage.
Mm-hmm. It's a metal blocker.
So my cap is basically a Faraday cage, and it cost me $60 because it has that much silver in it.
Mm-hmm.
But you're looking at the only way to stop that technology is to put yourself in a Faraday cage.
Or to sit down in a metallic room in a metal tub.
Yeah.
Lock yourself away.
Or paint the walls with metals.
Yeah, exactly.
There is paint to do that, but it's like $300 a gallon. Well, it can be worth it if you're being tormented.
That's true. That's true. Or hit with energy beam weapons too.
Yeah. When I was being shot a couple of times a month, I was seriously considering painting my bedroom with that, just to stop being shot. The company I bought the cap from sells the paint, and they sell fabric for making curtains. So I was seriously considering doing that, just so that because I've been shot in my bed. Out of the 10 times I've been in my bed, 3 of them.
Wow.
So they've been shooting me through the window in my bedroom.
They never stop. It never ceases to stop.
Well, there's a perfect parking place. It's right over there that they can see the window to my bedroom and just shoot me.
And it's an energy-based weapon. You don't see it. It doesn't have, you can't see it. It's invisible. And it's a laser beam technology that they could hit you anywhere in the body, the head, anywhere.
Well, they like to hit me in the kidney.
Ouch. Hit it where it hurts, basically.
Yeah, they have figured out for some reason they can't kill me. So they don't know why. I don't know why. But they haven't been able to kill me. So they now make it pain related. They give me the most pain that they can give me without killing me. And the whole point is to try to make me shut up. And all it's done is piss me off. So.
And I've seen you pissed off. So.
Oh yeah, you have seen me pissed off. Yes.
And I understand why.
You haven't been the victim of it, but yes,
No.
You've seen it.
I get pissed off myself too. So because I've been hit with this type of a weapon from TR3B2 with a laser beam weapon, where I was blind in one eye.
I remember that. And I remember how people were like, "Oh, cool," and I'm like, "You idiots!
Cool.
You idiots! She got hurt."
Yeah, 2 days of tiredness and a migraine. Hey, I already naturally have chronic migraines, but this was induced by the laser beam weapon from the ship. And I took some pictures of it accidentally. Well, this eye was blind, the other one was just doing this, the cell phone. I was like,
I couldn't believe you got some of the best TR3B photos I have ever seen. And it was after you'd been shot and you couldn't even focus.
Oh, it
was you got incredible shots.
And this was, mind you, at 3 a.m. So, and I was standing in the bathroom, right, because I could hear it hovering. They turned off their cloaking tech, so I could actually hear the whirring of the ship. Usually it's soundless when they're cloaked. You can't hear the ship at all. But they turned on the whirring of the engine so I could actually hear it. It was freaking annoying as heck. And it was there hanging around for a couple of hours, and then when I went into the bathroom and I took my cell phone, and I just took it for communication. I wasn't planning to take pictures of it. I was just planning to text you and somebody else to let you guys know what was happening with me, just in case.
Yeah, because I'm the person who's up all night, because those of us who are abducted at night, our subconscious doesn't think it's safe to sleep then.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I just thought I would mention that because I've had people contact me. Are you a tweaker? Because you're up all night. No, my subconscious thinks it's not safe. And we have black helicopters and other interesting sounds at about 3 a.m. at least 3 or 4 nights a week.
There you go. They spy on us, they take us, they abduct us, and they threaten to never return us back on Earth if we don't behave.
And they tap into my phone line, and they have tapped into my computer, and they listen in on any and every conversation. And I have, on my regular computer, I have tape over the over the camera. On this one, I just shut it. So when it's shut, they can't see anything. They may still hear me, but they can't see anything.
Oh yeah, and I've had reptilians while talking on a phone with my psychic friend who knows about these alien abductions, the SSP. She's a healer and psychic, and all of a sudden I'm like, I hear this on the phone, and she hears it. She gets goosebumps. I'm like, those are the reptilians from the moon. I started talking about the SSP, the abductions.
Just try to scare you. If they were really wanting to take you out, they'd show up at your house.
You know, I've had reptilian humanoid assassins show up at my house cloaked in a smart suit and try to organically kill me and make it look like it was an organic death. I've had that happen.
I've had my cats go absolutely berserk when I couldn't see anything at all.
Yeah. My cat actually died during one of those visitations from a Cobra Nordic class assassin from the Planetary Corps, because they actually grow ET, human hybrid, and other hybridized extraterrestrials assassins on the cybernetic labs. They make those too, to come and kill you.
Well, they make everything. Everything they can think of, they make it.
Oh, yeah. But
we advertised this as CITD, so we ought to talk about them a little bit.
Yes, Contact in the Desert 2018, and this year it was special.
This year was special because I went.
Yep.
I hope she doesn't mind. She's on Facebook as Margaret Kite. And she invited me to stay at her timeshare and bring Lou along with me. And so I had no hotel fee. The hotels in Indian Wells were running $450 a night per person. So that would have put it way out of my budget. And because Lou and I did not have the $440 that they wanted for the passes, we were volunteers, which it's kind of good to know what it's like for that view, you know?
For sure.
So we worked 15 hours over the 3 days, each for our passes, which meant that there was a big chunk of the day that we were working instead of going into discussions. Now, it was good for me in some ways because it kept me out of the way of the Gaia folks.
And Corey Good, the insider's insider. Woo-hoo-hoo.
Yes, I managed to avoid him. I saw him from a distance once, and he didn't look well.
I wonder why.
Well, I don't want to go into all that.
Yeah,
there were rumors. Okay, but I worked in the registration office and selling T-shirts. We were supposed to also have caps and coffee mugs, but by the time I showed up, those were all gone. So I was selling T-shirts and tickets to the workshops, and they had it set up where an actual employee handled the credit card stuff. So but if you had cash, I could wait on you. And I have experience as a cashier at Walmart, and I was never more than 50 cents off on an entire shift. So, in the whole time I worked there, so I'm qualified to be a cashier.
So am I, library technician, cashier for student cards, and putting money on student cards to print and pay library funds.
And
the books.
If Walmart teaches you anything, it's customer service, no matter what the customer is looking or acting like.
Oh, for sure. Same with
So,
library work.
most of the customers were really good people, had no problems with them at all. I was recognized by someone who jumped up and down and squealed and said, "Penny, I've watched every one of your interviews. I hunt for you online." And I was like, wow, a fan. I think his name was Norman. But he was a really nice guy. All he really wanted was a hug and a photo with me.
That's not too much to ask.
No, he wasn't unreasonable at all. He was really sweet. And the people in the registration were just like, "You have fans?" "Oh yeah, I have fans. I'm going to be speaking at Stargate to the Cosmos in Albuquerque in October." "As what? What do you talk about?" And I go, I'm an SSP veteran. I was in what Corey Good calls Dark Fleet." And they were like, and I'm like, okay. And they were like, "Why are you working registration?" "Because I'm on Social Security disability and I didn't have the money for your passes." And it was like, and so the fan says, "Really? You didn't have the money to come here?" And I go, "No, I didn't. You know, I mean, let's get real." And he forced a $100 bill on me. And I told him, "You don't have to do this. I'm paying my own way. I'm working." And he was like, "No, I want you to be able to buy books or whatever if you want, you know." So after I protested, he insisted, and he just walked away with it in my hand, so I guess I kept it.
Well, you should, after everything you've gone through in life. Let's just say it as it's a Good Samaritan donation that a fan did. You could take it. There is, if they insist, you're not doing anything wrong. You're honestly volunteering there. And you've provided very good disclosure information. To me, you're 100% legit, because I have grilled you number of hours on your story and stuff.
That's the first time I've ever gotten money for my story. And it was like, I was in shock that someone recognized me. People give me hell about this, but when I first came forward, I did not expect to be believed. I'm in my 60s. I'm talking about spending 25 years on Mars, starting in 1964. I'm talking about mind fracture in 1959. To the average person in my community in bumfuck California, it's an unbelievable story. And I never expected to be believed in the first place. So each time a new person, a new interviewer, a new whatever believes me, it's like, wow, I didn't expect that. So I have this attitude of I'm still this anonymous kind of a person. So being recognized was like, okay, that's a new experience. And okay, this was like the third day I was there too. And I had met some of the people from the SSP group, and I'm going to name them because they are public people. I met Billy Carson. I met Jordan Sather, and neither one of them recognized me at all, which was exactly what I expected. Jordan did recognize me whenever I stuck up my hand and I said, "Hi, I'm Penny from the SSP group." And then he shoved my hand aside and hugged me. So, okay. He didn't recognize the face, but he did recognize the name. Billy never did get the look of recognition. I was just a fan. So that was cool. He took a photo with me. He was really nice.
And who is Billy Carson?
Billy Carson is one of the speakers on Gaia, and he does tours through parts of the world where there are ancient artifacts. The ones I've seen that he's done are in Egypt or in, there was one that was Angkor Wat. So he does that. He connects the ancient tech with the modern tech and explains how they're the same and how they're different. And he's one of the most intelligent people I know. And it didn't shock me that he didn't know me. Okay, who else did I meet?
Who's Jordan Sather?
Jordan Sather he's a right-wing truther on YouTube. He has a YouTube show that keeps getting in trouble with YouTube, and he's in major hot water with YouTube. One more strike and he's gone for good. He is
gone. They took his show down, Destroying the Illusion, and has a backup channel, Destroying the Illusion 2.0. So
and 2.0 is in trouble already.
Oh dear, not again.
And he's one of the people that does the QAnon, and he also crosses over into SSP, and because of his following, he's one of the people that Corey Good added to his entourage.
Yeah.
And he actually talked to me at the time of that arrangement, and I told him to just keep his eyes open and pay attention to what was going on and don't get sucked into anything.
Yeah.
And gave him my blessing. So I wish him well. But it was cool that he recognized me after he heard my name. So I was impressed by that.
We're not here to backstab each other. We're not here to gossip about, like Corey Good looked haggard and tired because he made a lot of commitments at Contact in the desert to make appearances. So that's why he was tired, from what I heard.
It was between 100 and 112 Fahrenheit the whole time we were there, and it didn't cool off at night. Exactly. It was just hot. And to go from Boulder to that is a big deal. It was just hot.
And the man overextended himself. He double booked a lot of things to make appearances.
He was charging quite a bit for the tickets, and he had more appearances than I think anyone else, judging from what we knew at the registration office. He had a lot of things, and he ended up canceling one of them, and people were pissed. But the people that run Contact got a substitute, and most of the people were willing to stay. And I don't know who the substitute was, but they got someone who was willing to cover, and most of them were okay with it. So it worked out in the end.
And I imagine doing conference touring and other events, festivals, the man gets tired. Naturally, he would. That's why he looked haggard and tired.
If he has age regression sickness like he has talked about, I was tired. We spent an extra day just hanging out at the timeshare at the end because we were too tired to drive home.
Yeah.
But home was a good 8-hour drive away. So I live in Northern California, and we drove, we didn't fly. So we knew it was going to be a long drive home, so we just spent an extra day and just crashed. the day that they did all the interactives. All of those were more money than we had to pay for. And so we didn't go to any of those. We just stayed at the timeshare and made sure the leftovers were taken care of because we ate at home. The caterers wanted $100 a day per person for food. So, we're not rich. We went shopping and cooked at the timeshare.
And from your photos,
took sandwiches.
that's fine. It's good food. It's good fare. And Contact in the Desert was in Indiana Wells, California this year, not at Joshua Tree.
Yeah, it was in Indian Wells. It was at a major resort. It was very nice. I'm not sure it was worth $450 a night per person, but it was very nice. My impression is that the people who ran Contact probably did not make any money. That the hotel and the caterers took most of it. Mm-hmm. That's the impression that I got working for them. So they didn't even have the money to give the workers t-shirts this year because the hotel took so much of the money. Wow. Now, the average output for the people who were at Contact, the average people who paid for all of their stuff, okay, you're looking at 4 nights at $450. You're looking at 4 days of $100 for food. You're looking at the weekend pass, which was $220 if you bought it early. You're looking at, they ranged from $25 to $50 a ticket for the workshops and $10 more for the interactives. My guess is that the average person there who actually paid for everything put out in the neighborhood of $4,000 to attend.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, so I don't blame them for asking stupid questions in the workshops or demanding attention with the speakers or getting mad because they were put in lines here and chased out for the next group to come in and all of that. They put out a lot of money, those people did. And there were a lot of them.
So a lot of money. We were just disconnected for like a sec. What did you say? A lot of money was put out?
A lot of money was put out by the people who were attending. And at some point you have to ask, did they get their money's worth?
I usually don't go to these conferences because you tend to be abducted while you're there.
I was not abducted there. I was not shot there. I might have been abducted during the night while I was sleeping. There was one day my blood sugar was high, but I have that at home.
There you go. I just heard that these conferences are notorious for abduction experiences or weird events happening to you.
Now, what else happened was I was just walking down the sidewalk and I saw Sasha and Janet Lesson. And Janet and I was like 50 feet away. We recognized each other. And as we started walking, she had Karen, I can't think of Karen's last name. It's Karen and Brett. They're in our group. And so it was Sasha and Janet and Karen and Brett, and they're coming towards me, and Karen has a walking stick, which I never realized. And so Margaret was with us, and Margaret and Lou both took photos, and the one where Janet and I actually connect, and we're looking at each other's eyes like,
yes, mind meld.
The mind meld. The sun was making a halo around Janet, and it was really a cool photo. Um, I was really pleased with that one. That was a cool photo. And so during the time when I wasn't working or in one of the free presentations, I basically hung out with the four of them. It was like we had known each other forever, and it was really cool. And they had asked me to go to one of their presentations, and so I did, and it led into the panel for the consciousness people. Well, I had worked in a workshop with Jason Quitt. So I was one of the people that took care of the door, made sure people got in and out without the door slamming, and that only the people that had gone to the bathroom and come back were allowed back in, and that stuff. But I got to hear his presentation, and I also worked in the workshop for Paul Stonehill. He's the one that does the Russian UFO stuff, and he is meticulous with his documentation. But Jason Quitt came up with a theory that for him it's a reality. And I wouldn't have an issue with it the way he presents it.
Like virtual reality, right?
No, it's multidimensionality.
Okay.
That his experiences, and he's very detailed about what he experienced, and he started off with the phenomenon of sleep paralysis.
Oh, I thought that happened to me.
During
abduction, yeah, that's normal.
During sleep paralysis, he went out of body. Okay, and so for him, his experience has been all out of body multidimensionality.
Like astral travel or something similar?
Yes, very similar to astral travel and going into basically 4 and 5D. What we would call
body. Like body.
Yeah. And he's had some bad experiences there and some good experiences. Now, the trouble that I disagreed with the panel is that they assumed that all of the UFO experiences and the SSP abductions were also this. And that's not true.
No, it's not.
I have no problem with that this is a reality.
Well, it can be astrally a reality, yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
That way. It's happened to me in a light body through astral.
Exactly. I've had those type of experiences also. So what I'm going to say is what I heard from the panel was that this was their explanation for our experience. And that is not correct. There is a multidimensional astral phenomena that is very real and very valid, but it is not all there is. There is also a 3D based tech related phenomena that is what the SSP is.
And also virtual reality training. When you're in the SSP, they put you into virtual reality scenarios to prep you for missions. They do that as well.
So you have all this stuff going on in your head, and they took his explanation and said, aha, this explains it. It's not 3D real. We don't have to panic anymore. And I'm like, excuse me? It is 3D real. It's just both are happening. Sometimes to the same people.
Yeah, you could be taken, like your actual body is taken. You're taken up into space and then time dilated back into the point
Which
you're
is
taken.
Which is why we have age regression sickness.
Yes.
Kael has photographs of his fingernails that he said I can use in my presentations, where you can see the white lines on his nails from the times he's been taken and had liver damage, where that he had to be treated for it. And they're equidistant. You can look at the photos and go, oh my God, he has, like I have the record from my blood tests, he has the record from his fingernails.
And I could, because I took naturopathic training, practitioner training, and you could tell by your fingernails, by your tongue, if you have any organic diseases or disorders in your body, because your tongue turns a different color, there's spots, the nails are brittle and damaged, there's like these lines. Also on your feet, you can tell if your feet have fungus on them, there's something organically wrong with the body, liver damage, kidney damage, whatnot. Eyes too, your eyes are a different color, like the blood vessels, or there's yellow on the whites. So those are organic ways of proving things. That's true.
So we are going to have to deal with this, because otherwise we're already having to deal with, well, how do you know it wasn't virtual reality? How do you know that those weren't memories implanted to fool you? How do you know that you're not disinfo? And now we're going to have to deal with, how do you know that you weren't just astral traveling?
Well, there is the soul transference tech, but that's different from astral travel too.
Yeah, the soul transference tech, they take your body and put it in stasis. Well, they have your mind going all over hell's half acre.
Or you're sleeping in your body at home, and your soul is literally sucked out of your body into space, into another body, and then returned afterwards, after whatever mission you go on. Because this happened to me. I've realized that way it's happened to me too. And then I wake up and I'm like, oh, I was just on the space station that's cloaked orbiting Mars, and I did the cybernetic stuff yet again. And that's not a recent memory, that's from 2 years ago, but I remember my body was still sleeping, but my soul was elsewhere, upstairs in space.
Yeah, and I wake up and sometimes it's, where the hell was I and why am I so tired?
Exactly, you're almost like brain dead fatigued.
Yeah, I wake up tireder than when I went to bed, and then people wonder, why are you sleeping 12 hours? Well, gee,
That's why.
I wasn't even here.
Exactly, you were elsewhere. Your body was just calmly snoozing away while your soul matrix, your soul energy in 3D, and it can go beyond the 3D, 4D, 5D. Your soul can be transferred anywhere into any type of a body. Organic, cybernetic, human ET hybrid, avatar, bioroids, syntheroids, synthetics. Nanotech is involved. Electromagnetic fields are involved. That's part of the tech for the soul transference.
Well, I should say I did have an encounter with Richard Dolan.
Oh, do tell.
He had a booth. He was selling his books. He was being a perfect gentleman. Didn't have a clue who I was. I walked past, and I was going to leave him alone. And something inside me went, grrr. And I just made a Yui, turned around, said, "Hi, I'm Penny Bradley, and you should remember that name because you're going to hear it." And he says, "Why?" And I said, "Because I'm a speaker, and I will be at my first conference in October."
Stargate to the Cosmos.
Yes, with Janet and Sasha Lesson and TJ Morris are producing it. This is their first rodeo.
I won't be there because I'll be moving. Like, I promised them that I'd digitally be there on Skype, but I'm moving in October, so they want to pre-record something, and I'd be happy to.
Okay. Because I would love to see you represented there. And I mean,
me.
I know you. I would love to see you represented there because they are making an effort to represent all the branches and all the people who are coming forward. And you have. I don't want you
to them. They're wonderful.
Yes.
Sasha and Janet Kira Lessing and Sasha Lessing are wonderful people. They've interviewed us separately.
Mm-hmm.
They've interviewed some of us together. Wonderful people. Hats off to them. Starting to the Cosmos will be fantastic.
And I have the utmost respect that they're thumbing their nose at the establishment and inviting all of us.
Exactly.
Because everyone else wanted to ignore us.
Of course.
And so I talked to Richard Dolan, and he was just peppering me with questions. And he got to one. He says, if I talked to your family, what would they tell me about you? And I said, they would tell you that I was batshit crazy. And he just stopped. His jaw dropped open. And I said, I'm just being honest. They would.
Oh, yeah, if he talked and interviewed my family, they'd tell him that I'm an extraterrestrial, that I've been abducted, that I'm in the secret space program, and that I've been messed with. That's what you'd hear from my family, and that I have crazy psychic abilities off the Richter. That's what you'd hear from my family.
I'm 30 years older than you are, and my family is Church of Christ, where women are to keep silence in the churches. They have watched me over the decades and made it very clear at every step of my life that they disapproved of what I was doing. I've been disowned 6 times now. Yeah, the last one was last September. My mother disowned me again. And they are very conservative overall. They don't believe in ETs. They don't believe in the psychic. They don't believe that any of this is possible. And they're ashamed that I've been married and divorced 3 times. And they kind of lump me into the category of lost cause.
Well, you're not a lost cause at all. You are to be commended for coming forward and doing these interviews and going to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and being part of Stargate to the Cosmos.
Lou and I are going to be driving cross country to that, both ways. We've got a Chevy Blazer, and we just get in it and go. And
exactly, go.
We've already got someone to share the hotel room to keep the costs down, and I'm hoping that enough tickets will sell for my workshop that I break even, and if not, oh well.
We're not here to make money out of this. We're not. I mean,
no, but it would be nice to not lose money.
That's true. To make a little, to just
pay for the trip.
Pay for the trip, exactly. I mean, Janet invited me to the conference to come in person, but because of my health, I can't come there in person. Just like I told the Guy execs, I can't go to Boulder, Colorado because of health. And they're like, why? Why can't you? Look perfectly healthy on interviews and in such. That's like everybody says you look good. Because I have a good food diet. I have to, organic, GMO free, um, sulfate free and whatnot, just so I'm healthier. But I can't travel. I can't go anywhere to any conferences in person out of the country because
I
of
don't know
health.
I don't know what I'm going to eat there. I really don't. I have no idea what they're going to have available that I'm not allergic to.
Well, for
So
me, it would have to be gluten
now,
free.
Lou can eat anything. There are 15 foods that I'm allergic to, and when I eat them, I have symptoms of congestive heart failure.
That is horrible.
So this is not a fun thing, and even at Contact in the Desert, I had a low blood sugar diabetic episode, and one of my coworkers hands me a cookie, and I was sick enough at the time I didn't even think about that it was wheat, and I ended up with diarrhea for 2 weeks afterwards.
Yeah.
So it's something that I will have to deal with while I'm there. And hopefully the hotel will have something in one of the restaurants that I can eat.
Yeah. And
I
mind
know
you,
we have restaurants here in town that literally all I can eat are the green salads.
yeah, same. I eat green salad and I eat turkey patties, organic turkey patties. Well, free range, as organic as it can get. Organic eggs, gluten free, GMO
I
free.
can't have eggs. The list is coffee, beef, eggs, milk, mushrooms, broccoli, cauliflower, hazelnuts, uh, alfalfa sprouts, melons, codfish, um,
Cookies, wheat cookies.
wheat, yeah, and if you take all of those out, that eliminates 90% of American food right off the bat. So I sit here with my chai tea. So I will take my tea bags with me because I know I can have that no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't have a kitchenette in the room, so I won't be able to cook. So I may have to go to a grocery store and find stuff I can have.
Exactly. I have the same issues with food. For me, I can't eat potatoes. I can't eat anything that has gluten in it. No fish, no beef, no chocolate, no alcohol, no
Mm.
coffee, and a lot of other things on that
No
list.
chocolate. I would die. I only have it like once a week, but I would die if I couldn't have it at all.
Well,
At least with no coffee, I could still have tea.
I have tea. That's fine. Just no chocolate, no alcohol of any type whatsoever, because then I get a nasty hemiplegic migraine with a paralysis. So
That
that's why
sucks.
no chocolate, no coffee, no
I'm on
alcohol.
metformin for diabetes, and alcohol with metformin creates extreme muscle cramping until it wears off, which is about 3 hours.
And I'm allergic to most medications, the pharmaceutical type, so there's no preventatives against migraines for me. And I've tried a lot of different things, and there's just nothing works on me, except, not being eliminating the triggers, which is the food and the lights, the
Mm-hmm.
fluorescent LED lights. Nobody believed me at work that I'm allergic to the LED fluorescence in the workplace, that causes my migraines and that causes cognitive impairment and memory lapse, and that I become like an idiot. Nobody believed me. They're like, why don't you take some prophylactic medication to you know, to stop your migraines. It's like a headache. All those I've tried like 4 different medications. Nothing works on me. Nothing. I still have migraines. Even
Mm.
worse on the meds than off of them. So for me, it's like, I'm sorry. This LED fluorescents are like poison to my head, to my eyes, to my brain, to my whole body. I'm an idiot under those lights. Like kryptonite to Superman is poison. Fluorescent lighting, LED lighting is poison to me.
Well, I'm not dealing with fluorescents. We still had some of the old style. The old style ones that are illegal here, I just haven't thrown them out.
Well, you have incandescent lighting, and you see I have light right now behind me. That's pot lights with incandescent small lamps in them. That's why I'm not raving in a migraine right now.
Well, we're not allowed to buy them here anymore. So when these eventually burn out, I'm in trouble.
Well, that's the cabal, the Illuminati, and the elite at their best. That's why you're not allowed to buy them.
Mm-hmm.
It's as simple as that. And you also met Grant Cameron too.
Oh yeah, Grant Cameron. That man is a total gentleman. Lou and I listened to his presentation, and Lou wanted so much for me to meet him because he's going to be at Stargate. And the only time that Lou could capture him was while I was working at the registration office. And I'm sitting in the back counting the tickets in the envelopes from the workshops, because we had 3 different people count them to verify the number. And so I was the middle person who was counting them. And Lou shows up with Grant Cameron. And Lou told me later that he had asked on the way, well, if she's a speaker, why is she a volunteer? And Lou told him that it was because I wanted to know what it was like from the bottom, which I did. It's really easy to be a jerk at these things if you don't know what it's like for the others.
Yeah.
And so Grant came to the registration office, and we talked about what I was going to be talking about, and he was an absolute gentleman and really kind and polite, and he said he was looking forward to hearing me, and I was like, oh my God, this is the guy that put together the citizens committee about UFOs. I have seen all those videos. This is the guy that did this, and he's treating me so nice. And I was like, wow. So, yeah, Starstruck.
Did you get to meet Stephen Bassett?
No, I didn't. Who else did I see? I saw Clifford Mahooty, and I got to meet Whitley Strieber and Travis Walton, and I got to meet Giorgio from Ancient Aliens.
Ooh, how was that experience?
He's a trip. Just mischief pours off him. he if you got to spend just time with him, I bet he's just fun. But mischief was just pouring off him, and he was just glowing with everybody hugging him for photos. But his hair was about this long instead of
Yeah, I know that Ancient Aliens gets a bad rap for featuring John Podesta on their couple of episodes, but I still like Ancient Aliens. Don't give me any flack over Ancient Aliens. I still like it.
I don't have cable TV, and I haven't paid for Hulu. So, I
Yeah, I don't have cable either or Hulu, but I got something else.
do you?
Yeah, I do. So,
I see that. I see that little grin. Um, yeah, I do Netflix. Um, that's the only premium service that I pay for.
I don't even do Netflix. I do something else. But you know, this is an interview and it's going public, so I must protest too much and plead the fifth. I can't say what I do, how I get my shows.
Okay. I know some people that um, what is it? Torrent is how they get everything.
You got it. Just got it.
So,
Just figured out what I do.
but that's okay. Um,
Yeah, it's fine.
I've never found a torrent software that would work on my computer, probably because I'm hacked. But I don't worry about it. I get sent YouTubes. I get sent enough YouTubes that if that's all I ever did, I would never watch them all. And at least half of them are a waste of time.
It is the new television, the boob tube, the YouTube.
Um, when you have researched, okay, I was already doing political background research before I was activated. So I even studied with a lady she was a mafia princess from Detroit and had been raised with basically Illuminati beliefs. And she spoke English and German, and I had asked her to teach me Austrian economics because I had learned classical economics in high school and college, but that was in the 70s. And the economics that are being used both by liberals and libertarians are very different from what I was taught. And I couldn't make heads or tails of what was going on. So she taught me Austrian economics, and she taught me anarchist beliefs, and she gave me source documents, tons of source documents, all in PDF form. Some of them went back to the 1600s. And so I had gone through and read all of this, so I really understood how the American system worked before I was activated. And so a lot of the stuff that people send me and they're really impressed with it is like, well, she called herself two artist. And I said, so most of what she gave me, I studied with her for 3 years. So I had basically a graduate school course from her. And about half of the videos I'm sent are like kindergarten, kindergarten to high school. And it's like, okay, you're impressed with this. This tells me which stage you're at.
We're all at different stages in knowing about world economics or even particular country. Because, you know, with the Illuminati, the cabal, and the elites, you can't make heads or tails of what economical agenda they have, what they're up to today. Because it's different from yesterday or what they'll pull tomorrow.
Actually, they have a very well laid out plan, and they have been very systematic about it. And there's a set of videos that I share on my wall about once a year that show step by step by step how the Illuminati subjugated the United States government and how difficult it's going to be to undo that.
But it's very volatile, the games they play with the stock market, and that's what I mean by day-to-day different and unpredictable. That's what I mean.
What they do is they have these competitions among themselves to corner a market and create a bubble and then cash in on it and then leave everybody else to hold the bag.
Exactly, high and dry, and crash the market stocks, devalue the banking systems, devalue the different currencies of each country. They to do that too.
They call that fleecing the sheep.
Yeah.
This
system.
This is an every so often there is a pattern to it that they follow religiously, and it's based on astrology, and every so often they will fleece the sheep to keep us from advancing too far.
Yep.
And she taught me these patterns, and I got rather jaded. I was doing pages at the time on Facebook. One of them, she was a co-admin, and that particular one, I had so many .gov agents spinning every single thing I said that I eventually just stopped posting and shut it down. I was the last admin standing, and there were 5 agents that were just doing their best to run me in circles, and I finally just quit. The other pages that I have, one of them has 600,000 followers, and
This is on Facebook or
on Facebook. I'm the last admin standing on that one too. Facebook's algorithm changes have attacked pages. The company assumed that all pages were businesses and started charging for reach. And if you weren't a business and making money, you couldn't stay afloat. And so the ones that I run are hobby pages, and I only post because it's something to do. And it gives me a place to plop my research into what's actually going on right now.
And you mentioned being activated. What does that mean?
In 2013, an NSA agent used my remember code from my alter who was on Mars, and she was programmed with Wizard of Oz programming, and so he used the remember code from Wizard of Oz programming on me to make me remember.
Yeah,
and that was what activated the memories, and I was so angry. It took me until 2016 to make enough sense of the memories to be able to talk about them, and I've been talking about them ever since.
And the Monarch programs and MK Ultra have similar coding, so it's just a wizard code. Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz code.
Yeah.
A lot in the 50s when I was mind fractured, they used a lot of children's books for the programming.
Yeah.
So the code words would be either phrases out of the book or phrases that went along with the story that they made up. And they preferred ones that they made up so that you wouldn't accidentally be activated. And my understanding is now that they use a lot of combinations of numbers and clicks. There's someone that's been talking to me that says they use hand claps in a certain rhythm for her.
Yeah, or they use sound, vibration, and frequency, or to trigger you to do certain things or remember. Or they use a lot of different things. It could be the trigger code could be anything, virtually anything.
It can be virtually anything, and it doesn't have to be face to face. They can do it through the V2K.
Remotely,
So,
yes.
so you can be going along and doing your housework, and all of a sudden, wham!
You're
You're like,
activated.
you're activated in another altar, and your cover altar doesn't even know what happened.
Or you suddenly put on pearls and a pink dress and you go out and you do something. And then you're back home and you're like, what the hell did I just do? And why am I wearing these pearls and this pink dress that I hate? What the hell happened to me?
Yeah.
That's physical activation of physically activating you and getting you to go out and do something in public. Or whatever.
This particular agent used my remember code to activate me within my cover altar to remember what that altar did and was doing, and to remember the mind fracture process and Montauk, and from the time I was initially kidnapped until I was returned in that altar. So all of that came back along with the ET past life memories from the regression hypnosis. And what else came with it? Abilities, psi abilities, but most of them were behind a firewall where I couldn't just use them. But when I would get really mad, they would pop up.
Yeah, and I sometimes I have memory recall from regression sessions, and I have all this medical knowledge about weird diseases, weird autoimmune disorders, like rare stuff that I haven't even researched or I don't even understand, but I do understand it because of the downloads. Because you get packets of informational downloads of knowledge when you're on these missions. You just get
Yeah,
downloads in
you
your
do.
brain. They can do that with tech.
Yeah. I've had downloads. Um, what was it? It's in 2015. I had downloads of the entire history of planet Earth from the perspective of the Anunnaki. And then about a month later, I had the entire history of the planet from the perspective of the Zetas. And it was different. And there was another one that I think it was the Mantids. And they were about a month apart. And so it's like, okay, I have these three historical perspectives. And alrighty then.
The weird, like, I have medical knowledge about urology from men's perspective, about what could happen to a penis, how it's injured. It could either be blood flow, it could be just, scarring from the inside, or it could be outer skin stuff, why you don't have girth, like width anymore, or why it doesn't get so erect anymore, that you need a scan for it. Like all this weird stuff, like urology stuff, that, like, why do I know about erectile dysfunction, about penile implants. I've never researched any of this, and yet I know about
That's a
men's.
weird topic for them to decide you needed to know.
Well, I do know, and it came up in conversation with a friend recently. Um, they were discussing their stuff with me, and I was telling them about, well, you should get this, and that checked. And they were like, how in the world do you know this? Like, and I'm like, I got a informational memory packet download of information, so I know about all these weird men things.
Well,
I
at
mean,
least somebody knows to be able to help them.
yeah, with a penis, when you're injured, right? Sometimes the blood flow is affected, and there could be internal scarring. That's why the penis is like, instead of being straight, it's kind of curved. So there's less sensation in parts of it because the blood flow
Mm.
doesn't go where it should be. And if there's some kind of a scarring blockage, it's not completely like, it's supposed to be like this, but it's a little like this. And there's less sensation. So I know all these weird things without never having done the research on it. And there's invasive procedures for how to check if there's scarring or not internally, if you've had an injury or
That
some kind
that
of a
sounds
trauma.
painful.
It is, yeah. Because there's a way to scan your penis to see what the blood flow is like, if there's any scarring. And there's also medical procedures to fix that stuff, to fix the urethra, you know. So to fix the penis, to put penile implants if you're having erectile dysfunction. So the
Hmm.
balls go up, you know, and the penis is erect again. There's all kinds of weird things that I have no medical knowledge about that. I'm like, I'm a girl. Why do I have information about urology, men's stuff down there? And so I had a huge discussion with my male friend about it. And we were both trying to figure out, well, how do I know all of this from? I'm like, the SSP did it to me. They gave me a knowledge download. Thank you,
Well,
Planetary Corp.
they think they still own us forever, so
They do, yeah, and they can give us any old medical.
I don't want to say that they know us, that they own us, because I'm me.
You are.
They I'm me. I belong to me. Um, I I have my own soul mission that I'm working on, and if SSP still thinks that they own me, they are sadly mistaken. They may be continuing to kidnap me, but they do not own me.
They do not own us. Our soul is ours, free will, free choice. And, um, you know, if people do freak out about getting certain knowledge packet downloads, please don't. Like, Rochelle Standenforth was given information about homeostasis, and she's like, homeostasis? And other things. And she's like, does this happen usually? Do you wake up with medical knowledge or science knowledge or
Oh yeah.
higher capacity knowledge that you never went to school to learn? I'm like, oh yeah, it happens to me every time. I know about men's penises and urology and urethras and all of that stuff when I've never looked, never even researched that, never wanted to, but for some reason that's implanted on my poor brain these days. And I told her, don't, it's okay, it's normal. And she's like, that's kind of freaky. Why do I know about homeostasis? I'm like, well,
Well,
you did tell
that
me you were working
that's
in a cybernetic lab a few nights ago, so
that's what
that's
she
why.
decided was freaky.
Ah, well, she thought it was freaky that she has this knowledge of
This
homeostasis.
whole experience is freaky.
Well, I mean, she did have memory recall of being on a cybernetic lab somewhere doing science projects and
Hmm.
medical
Okay.
experiments, and then 2 days later she has these downloads about homeostasis and other things, and she's saying to me like, "Why is this normal? But this kind of feels freaky." I'm like, "It's totally normal. I get this. They do this all the time to me." And I wake up with medical or scientific knowledge that I never wanted in the first place, or how to use a new software or a new computer equipment, and I don't even need to know how to use that, but I do, and I'm a quick study for how to easily work with tech.
Yeah, I'm a quick study on computers.
Mm-hmm. So,
And I was a programmer in the 70s, 8-bit, and I couldn't, because my kids were sick, and they have congenital adrenal hyperplasia as a result of the modifications that were done on me. And after I got them stabilized and half grown, I tried to go back to the field, and they had already gone to 16-bit and which we had called packed. The data was packed. So they had already gone to 16-bit, and I couldn't read the code easily because it didn't work the same. And so I started doing DOS, and then they went to the Windows process, which made DOS obsolete. So basically, I've just been being a power user since. But most Windows-based, most Microsoft-based computer systems, I can debug and remove the malware.
yeah, and people ask me all the time, well, how do you know how to do all these videos and videography, the software? Where did you learn that from? I'm self-taught. I didn't learn it from anybody. I taught it to myself from the virtual reality of the internet. The internet is a virtual reality highway library for anything and everything. You can self-teach yourself how to use a lot of different audiovisual equipment, computers, software, web cameras, microphones, laptops. It's not that hard. And in medical research, I read medical stuff that I'm not supposed to understand, that's totally new to me, but I understand the concept of how it works, what it's for, and why.
Well, I was pre-medding at San Diego State, so the medical research is just, I majored in microbiology and chemistry, so.
And I was never pre-med.
That is something that I have been trained in.
I've never been trained for medical stuff. I'm a library and information technology graduate diploma. Any type of research I'm very good with, but medical research in particular, somehow, like, I've never studied this before. I'm not supposed to understand what the heck I'm reading medically, but I do. And I've used that ability for the Hashimoto's encephalopathy, and that was damn hard to regurgitate the medical research to my doctors.
Oh, yeah.
That it's valid and legit, and this is how my blood work and my MRI results and all the physical symptoms correlate with the medical research for the protocols for HE from Japan, medical research documentation that I found. And I submitted that to the Ministry of Health BC Technology Division. I wrote a 9-page paper on that and submitted that for approval. So maybe that'll be in every doctor's office about the weird HE next year, hopefully.
Hopefully. Yeah. Well, we've been at this for 3 hours, and I'm getting pooped.
Yeah, we jam-packed that in quite a bit. Can I ask you, overall, did you like contacting the desert?
Yeah, I did. Overall, I think it was a good thing. I enjoyed every session I sat through. I appreciated meeting some of the people from our group. Yeah, I think it was a good thing.
And you got to meet the lessons.
Yes, I got to meet the lessons, and I got to meet Karen and Brett and other good people.
Got to meet Matt too.
Oh, I wasn't going to drag Matt into this. Yes, I got to meet Matt. Matt stayed with us Matt Wyatt stayed with us in the timeshare. And I did energy work on him that my guides had asked me to do, and his guide said, go for it. So I did, and this did not require touching him, so don't think anything happened. But he slept for the next 36 hours, almost straight through. And except for waking up to bitch about a low frequency hum that he was the only one that could hear. So I still don't know what he was hearing. But yeah, he missed most of the conference for that. But he was also there as a volunteer, and they had worked him so hard that first day that he had already paid for his pass for the rest of the conference, and then got to use it for one day.
Oh no, he was doing audio-visual recording.
Yeah, he was.
So.
He was doing audio-visual, and he will be doing audio-visual at Stargate.
And he's a ET abductee.
He's an ET abductee. He's possibly SSP, and he's a past life ET.
And he does some healing work of his own, I believe, or something along those lines, like psychic readings or something. I've heard that.
I'm not sure what all he does. I know he does a lot of talking about spirituality. So I didn't get to meet Drew Dowling, but I will be in October, or so he's promised, and he's working on Tesla Tech Warp Drive. And he's working on the proof of concept right now. So,
for anybody who wants to know about the Tesla Tech, go watch the Tesla Files. It's Prometheus. It's been produced by Prometheus. Giorgio, I believe, is behind that the Tesla Files show. So, and basically, it explains how Tesla technology works. And Drew's working on the Tesla generator.
Well, Drew worked at the same place with the last assistant to Nikola Tesla himself. Yes. So he's basically gone as close to the source as he could.
And
so
Drew's SSP all the way, because what the man talks about is what we talk about and what we understand in terms of tech.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't say this often, so take me seriously. The man is smarter than I am.
The man is smarter than I am indeed too, and once he starts talking about Tesla tech, there's no stopping him. Literally for hours he could go on and on about the generator. Yeah. And how he's working on a farm and trying to power the whole farm, doing the proof of concept for it, winding the coils himself. Mm-hmm. So and the warp drive tech, his website really describes what warp drive tech is all about.
Mm-hmm. And the biggest problem he's had with the website is that the version that he's using for the warp drive is mind controlled like we did in SSP. And it makes it where he has to merge the metaphysics with the physics. And a lot of people are rebelling at that. but he really does have to put both in.
Yeah,
So,
he's talked about that, and he knows a lot about the spirituality aspect too.
mhm.
And he's a really interesting person. I've had a lot of chats with him, so he's really crazy smart. And he has a lot of
Yes.
SSP memory recall as well. So we have a
Mhm.
community of SSP assets, super soldiers, SSP vets, with a lot of things to offer to the disclosure community.
Yeah, we do. Uh,
And
we do. We have healers, we have physicists, we have machinists. We have people who were pilots, like I was. We have people who were soldiers. We have people who were guards. We have people who did tech jobs, like you did. Um, we have people who were in medical in Kruger. And the difference is in Planetary Corps and Nacht Waffen, you're mostly in your natural body, and so they can use the regeneration tank on you. In Kruger, you're mostly in a clone body, so they can't, because you'll come back with the original mind of the clone, which has not developed, instead of the mind that they're used to. And so they have to use standard medicine on those people. And we have one of the doctors from Kruger who is in our group.
yeah, and we have a lot of researchers who are SSP assets in the group as well. I'm a researcher. That's the work background I come from. So there's a lot of people, and we're the ones that are not being acknowledged at all. We're under the radar, and I mean, we hope to change that, but that's why we do these interviews, what we're doing now, 3-hour session.
Well, I recently have been working with a internet tech, and he owns the server that we have put it on. But we have come up with a alternate social media site for experiencers, and it's not necessarily for the big names. It's for the common folk who are not being acknowledged, to have a safe place to talk. We have set it up where we own the server. We are only beholden to what the government of Kentucky says we have to do, because that's where his server is actually physically located. So whatever laws are regulating Kentucky are what is all we have to acknowledge. So we called it Space Portals with an S on the end, .net, and it's all one word run together. And you come in and you sign up, and some people are having a hard time signing up, but if you keep trying, you'll get through eventually. And it's similar to what Facebook was in the early days. We do take donations to help pay for bandwidth, but we're not currently doing ads, and we're not selling your information to anybody. It's as private as we can make it.
It's a good platform and a forum for us SSPers to discuss stuff that we don't want Facebook and the NSA and the CIA spying on us for.
Exactly. We are not being spied on at the moment, unless somebody has hacked us and we weren't aware of it. And my partner is really good about watching for that. So The whole point was to have a private place to talk, and we are not storing the information long term. I think the law says we have to hold it for 3 months. So
We certainly need more of those online environments, and I know they've created on Stellar for disclosure type stuff too. Again, it's an online platform mimicking Facebook capabilities and other video sharing and other things. So a lot of people are branching out and trying different social media platforms that they create and get people on board because we need more privacy. Facebook is great for socialization and exchanging information and texting. It's great. It's the biggest platform out there, but it's not as secure as it used to be.
Well, we are on spaceportals.net. We are using the same software that OnStellar is.
Okay, that's good.
So we're using a real secure software system, and so far he and I have been paying for it ourselves.
We need more people to understand that we are not rich. We are self-supporting this stuff that we're doing, our disclosure. It's on a shoestring budget. There's not a lot of money in this. We're not paid at all to do this. So for us, there's no money in it at all. Zero.
No, the only money I've ever gotten was that $100 bill that was forced on me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was embarrassed about that.
Well, you don't need to be. You deserve that donation because the time you put into this disclosure and to sharing your story and putting it out there, it's priceless. For me, it's beyond money. It's priceless just to hear your story because that's for me as a researcher and an SSP asset and experiencer to just compare notes. What are the differences? What are the similarities in the stories, in the memory recalls? That's diversified. That's a field of diversity that I'm happy that we're in because you get to know the similarities and the differences and the commonalities and what's kind of in between and what's totally completely different. That's why these interviews are so important.
One of the things that I've gotten from the interviews is even with all the differences, we're still telling the same story.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
We're still talking about little kids being kidnapped and used as slave labor in space for God only knows what. And there's no motivation that we can fathom
for why that's being done, except to have slave labor, for all of it to be kept secret. And the commonality is we're mind wiped and age regressed, and none of us have any physical proof of the mind wiping and the age regression except the space sickness.
Well, the age regression sickness and those of us who were mind fractured are able to disassociate.
Yes, yeah, we are able to do that, and we're able to withstand huge amounts of pain and suffering too.
Yeah, with my toe broken, I only took a pain pill one night. Yeah. So that I could sleep.
Yeah, we can withstand a huge amount of pain, and we've been bullied in our lives, and we've been messed with. We've had traumatic life experiences and fractured family experiences too. That's commonality in the SSP assets and vets. It's just common. And bad health.
It's getting late here, so I'm going to say goodnight and thank you for the interview. And I'm going to let you go.
Thank you for the interview. Looking forward to another chat soon and another interview, perhaps?
Sure. I'm always up for it.
Me too. Thank you, Penny. It was wonderful having you on the show.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.